So I think for me personally, like any physio, our goal is always to have as many players on the pitch fit as possible. It's an inevitable part of rugby, injuries, and there's nothing we like more than seeing athletes return to doing the job that they're fantastic at doing. How's it feeling?
Yeah, good. I think it was round 2 of the Prem for us. I was fortunate enough that I'd been involved in like the cup campaign and stuff, so I'd played all 3 of the cup matches that we'd had, and we'd had some really good wins, and I'd come off the bench for Sale at Ashton Gate, and again, I think I put in a really good performance. So it's always the way when you feel pretty fit and you feel like you're coming into a good run of form that you get injured.
Reece basically messaged and said if they look long you can just cut them off.
Oh, fair.
But if not, they'll just...
So came on, we started to get ourselves back into the game. We just scored a try, I think. Burner had just gone over the line, so we were making our way back into the game. And I remember we were in our 22 and I got the ball and just, had a routine carry like normal. But I think the way in which I was tackled, it was sort of, my foot was planted in the ground and I was twisted. And as soon as I sort of went down, I knew that something wasn't right. I felt immediate pain in my ankle.
Lovely. So my name's Kate Tyler. I am the lead physio for Bristol Bears Women. In true Simi fashion, she was determined to try and carry on. We tried our best, but it was sort of inevitable that she wasn't going to be able to continue. So we took her off the pitch, assessed it again, popped her in a boot, and we sort of realised fairly early on that this was probably an injury that was going to need further investigation. We have a very strong relationship with Nuffield, which is brilliant, so I was able to drop them a message and get a scan for the Monday. So that was, the injury happened on the Saturday, so in 48 hours she was able to have a scan, which meant we sort of knew exactly what we were dealing with really early on. From the scan, we could see that Simi had torn her syndesmosis. So it's a collection of a few ligaments that sit just above the ankle joint. It's also known as a high ankle sprain. She'd managed to do a fairly decent job and actually sustain a full rupture to 2 of those 3 ligaments. So that meant that the ankle was unstable and therefore needed fixing. The surgery requires a tight rope being fitted between the tibia and the fibula, so the 2 bones at the above the ankle, and that then stabilises that joint and then ultimately led us to get her returning to rugby.
So it actually worked out pretty well that my sort of downtime of recovery was over the Christmas break. So in essence, all I had to do was lie down and ice my ankle for the Christmas break, which is ideal. But with the nature of sort of syndesmosis injuries, it's like the first few weeks, especially post-op, was very much about controlling the inflammation and the swelling and allowing your scar to heal and not doing too much to then sort of jeopardize that. But then when you are good to go, it ramps up quite quickly. I was quite astonished at sort of how quickly I was progressing onto different things, like considering I'd only just come out of the boot, I'm starting to calf load, I'm doing isos, starting to build up that range of motion again. And before I knew it, I was starting to run and then starting to jump and then back in units, like it all moved so quickly. But yeah, that initial period was difficult, watching the girls and not being able to be involved and not feeling like you can integrate as within the team as much because, you've got so much rehab content, so much, physio, soft tissue, all of that you actually can't sort of watch training sessions or be part of units. So you do have that fear of sort of the teams moving on without you and you're going to have to play catch up. But, whenever I was able to be involved, the coaches, the girls are really good at sort of explaining anything new and just appreciating that, you've not been involved as much with the main bulk of the team session over the injury period. So yeah, everyone's been so accommodating and helping get me up to speed with getting me back.
So I think the main difference with us as a team in women's rugby is that these athletes aren't professional, so we don't have control of every aspect of their life, which we're very fortunate to have that with professional athletes. Simi she works shifts, long hours, so she's on her feet a long time. That is a bit of a challenge with us because we have to factor that into her rehab and appreciate that she's probably not going to get as much recovery as perhaps a professional athlete's going to be.
The rehab team are so accommodating in knowing that this is the reality for most of us who are at the club. So it was a case of just being honest and saying, okay, listen, Kate, I can be in on this day at this time, you know, I'm working this many hours, this is what's going to have to be. And, you know, they were really understanding, and we were able to accommodate and, you know, pull back on things when I needed to, if, you know, I was stiff or a bit more swollen than normal. But then also on the weeks that I wasn't working, was able to, you know, commit my downtime to recovery. Then, you know, we can go a bit harder and push a bit more, just, you know, to get me to where I am. But yeah, it definitely is a bit more difficult. And I think that's the part that sometimes gets lost in sort of the dual career side of things, and that your days away from rugby aren't necessarily spent, you know, recovering. It's filled with, okay, I'm not at training today, so I will, you know, do a 12-hour shift at the hospital, which, you know, isn't sometimes the best thing for recovery, but we've made it work. Especially with the way I play and sort of how I define me as an athlete, like being explosive, being powerful, sort of making those big runs, or you know, accelerating into collisions or accelerating through gaps. Like that's a big part of how I define myself. So my worry was, oh my God, what if I don't get range of motion back in my ankle? Or what if I'm forever hesitant about, you know, stepping off my right or being able to express myself on the pitch the way that I'm used to being able to. So that was definitely a big, you know, worry of mine, and wanting to get back to a place where I'm not just able to be back on the pitch and sort of make up numbers. Like I want to be back on the pitch as Simi, you know, explosive, dynamic, able to express myself in those open spaces or in those wide channels. And so, you know, a big focus of our rehab was exposing me to that and exposing me to those high speeds, and, you know, getting me to step off of my right and working on stepping off my left as well, like using this as a period of improvement. And, you know, that's something that I've always struggled with. So it was like, okay, let's not just focus on your injured side. Let's actually develop and improve your weaker side in that regard. So, you know, I felt by the end of the rehab that actually I was itching to get involved in training. And actually, you know, the medical team and the S&C team were having to sort of be like, no, not yet. Not yet. You need to just do a few more things. But, you know, I think that's a real testament to them and how strong they got me, how confident they got me, and how much they had built me up to the point where I really was, you know, I just wanted to get stuck in. Good, done. Session done.
Well, we're in a good place. We're in a very good place.
So I think for me personally, like any physio, our goal is always to have as many players on the pitch fit as possible. It's an inevitable part of rugby, injuries, and there's nothing we like more than seeing athletes return to doing the job that they're fantastic at doing. It's been a bit of a journey, as most rehabs are for most athletes. It's challenging. It's a mental drain on athletes as well as a physical drain. So for me, there's nothing better than seeing that athlete pull on that shirt again and run back out on the pitch. And I think for Simi to be able to do that this weekend at Ashton Gate is sort of the cherry on the top, really.
That was the game that we had sort of circled, where it was like, okay, Simi should be good for Loughborough. So it was definitely always been a target, and I wanted, like I said, I didn't want to just be back to be able to contribute 10, 15 minutes off the bench. Like I really wanted to come back, I wanted to start, I wanted to put in a good performance and feel like I played like myself. And, you know, I love this club, I love Bristol, I love the opportunity of playing in front of our home fans, let alone at Ashton Gate in front of 3,000 people. And I was injured for our last Friday night lights, so that, you know, I really wanted to be involved in the second time round. So I was really proud to be able to make it back physically, but also train to a standard to demonstrate to the coaches that actually, you know, yep, Simi's good to go. She's training well, she knows her detail, she's up to speed, you know, she's fit, she's ready to go. So yeah, I was really proud to get that start and get that opportunity to run out. It felt like a long time, that first like 10, 15 minutes. I was absolutely blowing. I was like, oh my God, welcome back to Prem Rugby. But I think once I'd got into the swing of things, once I'd got, you know, felt comfortable again, like it just feels natural again. And, you know, it got to half time and I knew that I was on capped minutes. So I knew I was coming off at half time. And I was like saying to Dave, I was saying to Kate, I was like, oh, can I just 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes? And, you know, Kate was like, no, absolutely not. Performance-wise, I think it was solid. You know, I think I really wanted to nail the basics and do my, you know, set piece really well. nail my detail and just be, you know, really build a solid platform. But now I'm really looking forward to having the chance of sort of building on that and being able to express myself a bit more, like ball in hand, and do the fun things that I like to do. You know, Kate's been stellar. She's been unbelievable. She's been there for me, you know, when I've been angry, when I've had questions, but she's, you know, been there every step of the way for me. Also, the rest of the squad as well, and the rest of the medical team and the athletic performance boys, like, it's a big team effort to get players back playing, like from programming, from the conditioning, from, you know, the strength side, from the fitness side. Like, it's a whole squad effort, the, you know, soft tissue stuff, and just even like just listening to me cry sometimes, like, it really is a big team effort, and I can't thank them enough. And I think my return, you know, being as quick as it was, and, you know, I think as good as it could have been, I think is a real testament to them, and I can't sing their praises loudly enough.